Welcome to the Crypt of Wax. Today we are talking ritual mass, cascading misery. Mike, you look a bit perplexed. I'm assuming that's because there's no intro.
There was no intro, was there?
Yeah, no, I'm on a different machine, and I think it's fucked up the bit.
Fuck. Right. Well, remember that when we do the outro, so we don't just sit there looking like twats, looking at the camera, thinking it's going to happen.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Let's get back to the matter at hand. Why you click this video, all you viewers out there? Ritual mass, cascading misery, death metal. Pretty
Safe
kind
to
of
say, isn't it?
yeah, straightforwardish death metal. Elements of death doom in there with touch, a touch of progressiveness, which we'll talk about towards the end of it. For those new here, we don't really ever talk about these records off air. Me and Mike, we just say, "Oh, we're going to do this record," and then come on here and talk about it. So I actually have no idea Mike's feelings about this. So I'm just going to jump straight out and say, how did you feel about this one, Mike?
Well, I was going to say, had you heard of these guys?
No, yeah, I think this is their debut, right?
It's their debut, yeah. So they've done kind of like an EP, a demo and a single, and I think they might have then compiled that all onto something as well before this came out. So they've been going since they've been going nearly 10 years, but yeah, this is their first album.
And it's on 20 bucks spin, right?
Came out on 20 bucks spin, yeah. Which
So,
feels like that's probably quite an accomplishment for sort of death metal bands to get on that
for that
label.
more modern kind of death metal
Yeah,
band, right?
yeah. Um,
Yeah. So, like, how did you feel about this? Because yeah. Let's just start there. How did you feel about this?
I had a good time with this. I thought it was I thought it was one of those albums that was a very enjoyable listen. I don't want to say fun because obviously it's not the thing that they're going for with their sound, but you know when a band are kind of including things like putting in sort of certain riffs and sections and harmonies and things like that, that it's enjoyable to listen to it in that regard, you know?
Sorry, my cat's having a sneezing fit in the background.
Is that what that is? I could hear that.
Yeah.
I could hear still going on.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. It's we'll talk about the last song when we get there, but for me, like this was I had fun with it, and I know, like you said, it's not necessarily they're not going for like a fun record, but it sometimes you do just want a kind of no nonsense, like 30-40 minute blast of like heavy death metal with like
Yeah,
injections of like there was enough intricacies in there, wasn't there, to kind of keep you
I think so.
entertained.
I think so. I think there was one thing I noticed is I thought their transitions and the way they moved between sections and riffs was really well done. Um, and there was some really good parts in it where you're like, wow, that was awesome the way they did that. And I mean, one thing I will say is these guys they adore a harmony. There's
Yeah,
the harmonies galore, but I was there for it. I was
even the
enjoying them
bass
as
player's
well.
getting involved, isn't he?
Yeah, he's harmonizing and all.
He's getting right in there. He
Yeah,
uh, one so yeah, I guess because when I was doing my notes, I was like, yes, this is like a perfect like almost palate cleanser because we've been reviewing some a bit more like absurd stuff lately, and it just
yeah,
felt really good to hear like something a bit more kind of just stripped back, like
yeah,
death metal, like bits of death doom in there. Um, and I was like, oh, good, it's no nonsense. They haven't hit me with like like a 20-minute atmospheric moment. Then we
but
got to the yeah, then we get to the last
however,
song.
yeah,
And I was like, fuck, this song's 14 minutes. I was like,
yeah,
everything previous had not suggested that they're that kind of band.
yeah,
Um, and the first 6 minutes or so of that last song, it is everything that came prior. Like it's just kind of traditional, like what
yeah.
you were expecting previously. Then they kind of hit you with like a 5 minute clean passage. That for me, it felt like they said, okay, we need like a huge grandiose ending. Let's do something and do that there. And for me, it kind of ended the record on a bit of a not a sour note, but just didn't need to happen, in my opinion.
It did feel unnecessary, and it did feel like you're right, it was the intention, obviously, to that they felt that they needed to do that because it's an album closer, whereas
Yeah,
I think you coulda just cut it off at that 6-minute mark, because that song, it started off slow for the first 3 minutes, and then suddenly went fast, the pace really picked up, and
yeah,
those, like, faster moments during that were really, really good, and
really
you
good.
I think you could have ended it intensely fast and
Yeah,
just cut it off, and it would have been a real good ending to the album.
I completely agree. I think like it would have been better that way as just a short, that almost 30-minute. Just this is what you're
Mm.
getting, without the additional stuff. Vocally, Mike, uh, I thought his vocals were. I really enjoyed his lower register one. He There was a couple instances where he had this kind of like throaty, acidic higher register, but it didn't happen as often as I would have liked it to. He only did it very sparingly, and I kind of really
I was
wish
gonna
there
say,
was
I can't
that.
even remember this. I can't really remember this happening, so it must have been quite sparse.
I think it was the first track. I think it
Mm.
happened in the first track. Uh, yes, about halfway through, the kind of acidic vocal happened, and it was doubled up with the back one. It was more background.
Oh, okay, right.
But I it sounded so good, and I just kind of wish that had been pushed a bit more as well. I think that would have given it another edge.
He had a cool voice though. I liked
Yeah.
his vocals. One thing what I found with this album that I really liked from a production point of view, it felt quite spatial. Like things, it felt quite panned. Do you know what I mean? It felt like there was a lot of space where the guitars were. And
Mhm.
actually, speaking of the guitars, I mean, I thought the guitar playing in it was great, really, really good. But
Yeah.
and his solos were awesome as well. Like track one, there was a really cool guitar
Yeah.
solo in it. There was just a slightly different approach to how he was, like, the kind of the scales he was using in it. It was a bit weirder, um, in
One
that
thing
way.
I one thing I really appreciated was like he wasn't doing too much like
No.
with the leads. A lot of them, especially those kind of bigger, more atmospheric, spacey leads,
Yeah.
that you can't really call solo, but they were just there for like atmosphere and sonics.
Mm.
I really enjoyed that they were put in over the kind of more simplistic heaviness, that would like loop for a bit because it would just give another texture
Yeah, it was,
um,
yeah.
of ambience and stuff. But yeah, like that solo in the first one was cool, and like you said, it was a unique one, and it was quite short and placed in the middle, wasn't it? It was quite
Yeah,
unexpected.
yeah. I don't think he did that many kind of like, you know, big solos on the album, maybe only a few, but
Yeah.
they were always very well executed and approached just a little bit different to your standard kind of death metal solo. They were the kind of highlight of the album when those bits came on. But yeah, this album overall was good, really good.
Yeah. Did you have a standout song?
I liked the title track.
Did you?
Um, I think it was the shortest song on the album, actually by some way. It was only 3.5 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Um, it started with that more, that more chugging, like chord progression, death metal riff, which they hadn't really done until that point that much. So it kind of stood out. But then there was just some really good riffing in there. There was a cool bit about 1 minute 20, which they sort of transposed down when the pedals came in, and they brought it back. They kind of made this small riff into the whole section. And then it sort of went on to the blast as well. And there was a really cool ending part as well to that song. It was really that was good. That was probably my highlight. But there was, in general, I enjoyed the album as a whole.
Yeah. I think mine was probably Frozen Marrow, the track after track five. There was a
Yeah,
really cool drumming section in it where like he was like kind of double kicking, but the he was pulling out this really cool pattern on the bell that was like coinciding with the riff. It was really cool. There were sort of injections of early. I don't want to say like early between the buried and me, because they're not like that. But there were moments in this where they would kind of it would be quite straight, but then he'd inject a bit of techiness that sounded very early noughties, progressive metalcore in a way. It was quite a unique take on death metal, I thought.
Well, I thought there was a toughness to some of it as well, which kind of had a
Like a
bit of a
beatdown
hardcore
toughness.
element. Yeah, yeah, like,
Yeah,
they would just do like a sort of, like they'll be doing their kind of tremolo riffs, and they do like a chunky sort of part that would end it, and it would feel
yeah,
quite tough in a good
yeah.
way. It worked. It really worked. Talking about Frozen Marrow, though, there was a bit on it I really liked where it's about 1 minute 40 where they did like almost like a bass break. Um,
Hmm.
and they sort of they didn't drop out entirely, but the bass sort of led, and it was just holding one note, I think, and then they were working around that, and then the change from that into the next section was really cool as well.
The changes throughout were pretty good, weren't they? I thought they
Yeah,
were there, and they played with like pacing really well. That I think that was like one of this band's high points is they can go from like caveman-y blast to like slower death doom to kind of like more that kind of beat downy chuggy death metal.
and you mentioned as well, like there was some they were going to kind of like more technical passages as well, but they wouldn't overdo it, but
No,
they would, and it would sometimes it would sound like they would evolve a riff from earlier and then make it more technical for that section, which I thought was intelligent, you know?
I think my one issue with their kind of injection of these kind of little technical bits was it like on the whole it worked, but there was a couple of instances which actually I thought was in Cascading Misery. They were maybe doing a bit too much, especially towards the
Was
end.
that the ending? The ending was
Yeah,
quite technical.
yeah. I think it sounded a bit not messy, but it just wasn't. It didn't have that kind of tightness that the rest of the album had.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I thought
I like that ending.
you like that kind of energy.
I did, I enjoyed it, yeah. Bit proggy.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think this is definitely one to check out for sure. I think
Agree.
yeah, fans of modern death metal, it's definitely hitting that kind of scratch.
I wanted to ask you, with this album, and this is a lot of my issue I have with kind of some of the death metal albums we review is the re-listenability for me. Like, am I gonna go back? Do you think you could go back and listen to this?
What one of my keynotes was, is it memorable? No. But was it fun? Yes. So like I don't know if I'll go back to it because I don't have that urge to because nothing about it. I think the last thing I heard was that kind of ender where it kind of
Yeah.
it didn't make me want to revisit it. But like I think had it just sort of ended and yeah, I maybe would have been a bit more inclined to kind of go back to it. But it's hard, man, because it's not to say I didn't have a really fun time with it. I don't know. What about you?
I feel like I want to go back to it, but then what I find when we're doing this show and we're reviewing a lot of music, especially on the death metal side, is you get a lot of it that comes out, and I'm not saying it all sounds the same, but they're in a similar enough universe that sometimes you find that the next thing you listen to replaces what you were listening to
Yeah, I know what you
before,
mean.
and you move on. I was thinking about this in the car when I was listening to this yesterday. Like, I loved, and I was firmly wanted to put it in my album of the year list, that Mortual album. But I haven't really gone back to it because it gets replaced by a different death metal album we're maybe doing afterwards.
I know what you mean, but I feel like that's an us problem because we're having to listen to so much music for the show.
Yeah, maybe that's it, you know, maybe that's
Uh,
it. I think I need to
yeah,
I need to sort of look at what some of the albums we've done and take some time to revisit them properly again.
I guess also because we also listen to albums that we don't review. Like, do you know what I mean? Like we have
I
to
know,
find stuff to review, so
I
we're
know.
not just picking two. We're actually
It's a hard job, John.
scouring.
It's a hard job.
It is a hard job. So give us a like and a
Give us a
subscribe if
like,
you like what
yeah.
we've done here. We put out videos every Wednesday and Friday covering the latest metal releases. But yes, let us know in the comments if you check this one out, what you thought of it. But it's definitely worth checking out. I think it's a fun death metal record. But yeah, we'll catch you in the next one.